Hello, everybody. Today's presentation is on study tips and tricks. My name is Mahanor.
My name is Michaela.
My name is Avani.
And my name is Estelle.
And my name is Zainab.
Great. So today we'll be covering about different studying tips and tricks. Before we get into it, we're going to focus on what is your learning style, because your learning style makes a huge impact. So if you can just take a scan of this QR code and scan it and take that 5-minute quiz, and then we'll proceed forward. And if you're watching this on video, just pause your video, take the quiz, and then just play it when you're done. So learning styles. There's 3 types of learning style. There's auditory learning, visual learning, and tactical learning. They all, if from your results, you probably realize that you got different percentages of all 3. We're not just one kind of learning style. Depending on the subject, our learning style changes. So if you're an auditory learner, these learners take in information through listening and speaking. So to fully comprehend certain details, they like to prefer to hear instructions and sometimes verbally repeat them. So recording and listening to lectures is a really good studying trip. Before you record any lectures, we would advise that you consult with your professor. If your professor is okay with that, then you can go ahead and record and listen to lectures. This presentation itself is a sort of a auditory learning experience. Read notes out loud, avoid noisy area, and practice writing your answers using old exam and like speak your answers. So what do I mean by that? I'm pretty sure everybody's taken like at this point or either on exam 1 or exam 2. After your exam 1, you realize, okay, the questions that were given to you are in a different format. So for your exam 2, when you're preparing, question your studying questions and note into that format, and then study through that and speak your answers out loud. So that way you remember saying it to yourself. And lastly, leave space in your lecture notes for later. So sometimes during a lecture, you might be just listening to your professor speak and you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to listen to this right now. And then when you're listening to the recording, come back to your lecture notes and then just fill them in with the important information that you forgot to input. Next is visual learner. Again, this presentation is a form of visual learning as well because it's a video. So visual learners absorb information best when they can visualize relationship and ideas. So maps, charts, diagrams, and even essay work well for visual learners. When instructors illustrate or diagram their lectures on a whiteboard, they may find that their students remember the information better. So if you're a math student, right, you might find your professor doing the problem on the board way more helpful than he reading it out loud. He or she drawing the graphs of the problems and making pictures on board may be way more helpful than just listening to it. Another tip for visual learner is study color coding your review notes. And I find that really helpful. If you're just using black or blue pen, your notes kind of blend in together. But if you're making a study guide, use different markers, use highlighters, so that way maybe your definitions are blue, your concepts are yellow, and your problems are purple. So that way it distinguishes or separates information and you remember it better. Flashcards. I personally love flashcards. I use them a lot for all of my classes. And then drawing pictures and watching videos related to the subject help as well. Tactical learner. So these learners are more hands-on learning type. They learn best by doing, and they might get fidgety if they force to sit for long periods of time. They do best when they're participating in activities or solving a problem in a proactive manner. Sometimes even being physically engaged helps them retain information better. So what are some of the studying tips for tactical learner? Making games and puzzles out of what you're learning. Teaching others what you're learning, and I find that very helpful. I find gaps within my information when I'm teaching somebody what I'm learning. Work in group and think of real life examples and information. So if you're a physics major, that might be your best way to study for your physics exams, or if you're somebody who's in a lot of like hands-on learning, you might find that very helpful. So to conclude it all, you might realize that a lot of these tips kind of overlap. It's just not like one tip is just not for one tactical learner, auditory learner, or visual learning. They kind of overlap and they depend on the subject that you're taking. History majors may like, auditory learning better, whereas mathematical learners or mathematical classes focus on visual learning. So utilize different learning styles for different type of classes that you have.
Throughout your college years, you will inevitably have to take a course in subjects you may not like or struggle with. For instance, science majors need to take their art requirement, and as an English major, I still had to take my mathematics requirement. This is why it is important to know how you can study effectively, even in a subject you are not too comfortable with. Studying and note-taking is not a one-size-fits-all system, so these tips can be applied to various subjects. You can incorporate certain methods into your study practice for particular subjects in order to better comprehend the material. So here are a few study tips for different subjects to help you ace your next test. Next slide. Next slide. Because mathematical subjects require you to understand the logic and processes behind problems, utilizing practice problems will help you study more effectively. Incorporate this into your study sessions and take advantage of any homework assigned to you by increasing your understanding, checking your work, and applying what you've learned in class. Another helpful tip is to study for tests in advance. Understanding the process behind math problems is difficult to grasp when you're cramming at the last minute. Study by using practice tests in test-like conditions. For example, if your professor does not allow calculators or formula sheets, don't use them when you're studying. Lastly, take notes. A helpful note-taking method in math is a 3-column method. Split your notes into 3 sections with the headings, keywords, examples, and explanations. This will help you stay organized and help you gain a better understanding of the subject. But always remember to find what is right for you. If you need any help, you can always visit the Rutgers Learning Center for different resources. Some of the study methods of mathematical subjects I explained in the previous slide also apply to scientific subjects, but more specifically, for subjects like biology, for instance, creating and drawing out diagrams can be very helpful. It's great for visual learners, and the process of this itself is a great study technique, as it'll help you to retain the information better. Mind maps and flowcharts can help you see clearly what steps are for scientific processes that you have to learn for your classes. Another technique is to use other sources of information. Sometimes your textbook can be very dense. Seeking help from your professor or using other sources of information can help you find clearer explanations. Searching for scientific papers is especially beneficial for science majors, as it will help you practice reading scientific literature and give you a feel for when it's time to write a paper of your own. You can use the Rutgers Library, and you can visit the Rutgers Learning Center for tutoring and other resources. Next slide. Organizing your work in chronological order is a very effective studying technique for history classes. Using flashcards color-coded by era will help you remember events. Taking notes in chronological order will help you be organized, and drawing out a timeline will give you a visual representation of how the events happened in relation to each other. Next slide. One of the most important aspects of literary subjects is gathering evidences for your arguments or interpretations. Take notes of your professor's interpretations and gather quotes that support theirs. This is a helpful studying technique because it will help you come up with your own interpretations when the time comes. Gather quotes and evidence to support your own interpretations as well. You can always come back to it when it's time to write your essay. Another helpful tip is to get background information from the text you read, such as what was occurring during the time it was written. It will help you better understand and visualize the text. You should also take notes while reading. Writing a few bullet points to summarize each chapter will help you remember what happened. And reviewing your notes will help you gain a better understanding of the text as a whole. Check out the Rutgers Writing Center located in Conklin Hall for helpful resources.
All right, everyone. So once you're able to identify the type of learner that you are, it is able to find a workplace where you can be your most successful self. Now, having a defined workspace gives you the ability to be productive and organized. And there are many places at Rutgers University Newark or off of campus that you can do so. So the question is, what environment works best for you? Next slide. So if you are someone who does not do well with distractions, then working at home may be your best place to work. Now, this is a picture of my desk in my room. For me personally, I am somebody who's extremely extroverted and I love being with people and my friends, but being in a very busy environment does not lean itself best to me to be my most productive self. So I prefer to work at home in this home workplace that I created. So for many people, creating a space in your home where you can devote to doing work will help you stay focused. I decided to make a little desk area in my room where I have all my books and my highlighters and my pen and my computer. And I'm able to go to this area of my room when I know I have to do work and be very productive. Now, for other people, they might not be able to do work in their room and might need to leave their room and go to another part of their house to do work. But in general, one's home can be a very comforting and effective place for you to study. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of on campus, there are many different places that you can utilize and resources to be able to study and be your most productive self. So if you do your best studying with friends or in a public space, Dana Library may be perfect for you. Now we have a beautiful newly renovated Dana Library that has 4 different floors, and there's a lot of different places here where you can do work with your friends and study, or simply study alone. The Dana Library provides you with spaces where are very quiet, and you can be in the silent library, for example, where everybody is very quiet and focused on their own studying. Or you can be in open places where groups of people can gather and do study sessions. The Dana Library is also an amazing resource because it has the computer lab. And as students, with your ID that you use to enter into the building, you also have printing access. So you can go to the computer and you can print out study sheets so that you can go through and highlight and do all that type of stuff to be your most productive self. These are the hours of the Dana Library, and it is a great place to work, and it might be a great match for you. Next slide. So the Paul Robeson Campus Center is another amazing resource that we have. This is really good if you like more of a lively environment or you like to do work with your friends. Within the Paul Robeson Campus Center, there's a lot of different chairs or couches and tables where you can sit down, you can do work. You also have places like Starbucks or the dining hall area where you can get food or coffee and you're able to eat and do work. It's also right next to the beautiful outside lawn where you can sit and enjoy the nice weather or just meet with your friends to talk about your assignments. And overall, this is a great place for people who need that extra energy, need a busy environment to be most productive. Because for some people, being in an environment that is silent will not make them their most productive self. So these are the hours for the Paul Robeson Campus Center. And I also just want to note that the business school has a Starbucks as well that you have access to that you can also utilize. And overall, there are so many places in Rutgers where you can do work. And also it's important to recognize that, hey, that might not be what's best for you. And working at home might make you be able to be most productive.
So another important thing you should focus on is setting your goals. In school, goals are important because it can help you understand your current academic standing and allow you to focus on what's really important. Setting your goals is very closely tied to academic performance because it keeps you aware of how well you're performing, both in work and personal life. So establishing a clear plan can help you achieve your goals. Goal setting helps you provide a clear path to success, help you learn some time management skills, prevent procrastination, increase motivation, find the focus, purpose, and direction to be successful, and it also boosts your self-confidence. Next slide, please. So some tips on setting your goals. Number one, pick goals you are passionate about. These goals should be meaningful to you and make you feel proud once you complete them. Number two, make sure your goals are achievable and attainable. Set realistic goals so you can confidently work towards them. Number three, be specific with your goals and make sure you write down specific steps to achieve them. Number four, picture yourself achieving your goals and visualize yourself. Number five is to set deadlines for each goal and hold yourself accountable. Number six, stay positive and remind yourself why you're setting these goals and continue to encourage yourself. And number seven is to reward yourself when you're finally done with these goals as something positive to look forward to. Next slide, please. So here is a worksheet that you can use. You can pause this recording and fill it out. I would recommend to fill this out at least once a week until the end of fall semester. And it's also advisable if you can go to your academic advisor and talk about any goals you want to accomplish. Next slide, please.
Hi, everyone. We're in our time management section of the presentation. 24 hours, 1,440 minutes, 86,400 seconds is equivalent to just one day. Time is what we want most, but what we use the worst. Next slide, please. Planning. Plan ahead for any and all of your classes, inclusive of job, work study, studying, class assignments, general life responsibilities, and everything in between. If you're someone who struggles with studying, know studying starts the moment you leave class. Plan to be strong, not only at the end of the semester, but also in the beginning. Time tracking. Time is valuable, so do your absolute best to keep track of it. Delegate specific time blocks to complete one task at a time, whether it be 1 hour or 4. Once the time is up, move on to your next order of business and/or task. Decision making. You are one of your own biggest motivators when it comes to the choices you make, regardless of how small or big they may be. Decide on what you need to do first, second, third, etc. But most importantly, decide what is best for you. Analytical skills. The top 3 analytical skills are communication, creativity, critical thinking. Hone into yours and use it to your benefit. Multitasking. Contrary to popular belief, multitasking does not exist. As humans, we cannot give our full, undivided attention to more than just one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself. Instead, take one task at a time and lighten your load. Next slide, please. The Eisenhower Matrix. Do first, do later, delegate, and eliminate. Decide what you need to do first in the day. Decide what can hold off to do later. Delegate your time and also your effort. Eliminate as you go. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for listening. Any questions?
Hi guys, so I believe since this is a recording, you guys probably are not able to ask questions, but if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to our Office of Academic Services. We're located on the 3rd floor of Hill Hall, so just up the ramp, all the way at the end of ramp is our office. Also, this workshop was hosted by peer advisors. If you're planning, if you really liked our workshop and if you plan to find employment on campus, you can join a recruiting session and any information can be found on our website. Thank you so much for watching our video and you guys have a good day.